Namaste, dear friends. Today I am going to be speaking about a foundational yogic concept known as the Kleshas. The Kleshas are referred to as the root causes of suffering and pain in yoga philosophy. The word Klesha literally means poison in Sanskrit. There are 5 Kleshas: avidya, ignorance; asmita, ego; raga, attachment; dvesha, aversion; and abhivinesha, fear of death. So coming to avidya, ignorance, the first one, the word avidya is referring to the ignorance of being caught up in everything else but the present moment. Life is considered to be just a string of multiple present moments strung together. In each of these present moments, we are caught up on planning or thinking about the future or ruminating about the past. We do this incessantly to the extent that we are never really even aware of the present moments themselves. Every new present moment, we again fixate on a future which has not yet come and which, once it arrives, we hardly pay heed to. This spiritual ignorance is the root cause for all the other kleshas as well. All we really have is the present moment, and we readily keep exchanging it for a future or a past that doesn't exist. The second klesha, asmita or ego, the ego is fundamental to our survival here. Thus, we are not trying to rid ourselves of the ego, we are only trying to transform the ego. The ego creates a sense of separation between us and the world around us. This sense of separation enables us to survive. However, to cement this sense of separation, the ego creates identity. The identification process is twofold. First, we identify with our body, thoughts, emotions, and so on. This allows us to define ourselves as an individual entity. Secondly, we also identify with shared beliefs, communities, nations, tribes, religions, and so on. This allows us to feel a sense of belonging. Though the ego has made us feel that we are separate from the world around us, we haven't lost the primary urge to regain that connection. It is worth mentioning here that we are not trying to stop thinking or stop having beliefs. We must have these as they are fundamental to our survival. However, we must not strongly identify with these. For instance, we might belong to a community with a particular dietary preference. We have this dietary preference because we believe in a shared belief. It is fine to have this belief, but it becomes problematic when we begin to identify strongly with it. Our sense of self becomes entangled or embroiled in this shared belief and the dietary preference itself. If someone says something negative about the dietary preference, we see it as an attack on us because our sense of self is now wrapped around the belief of the dietary preference. Our self is much more than the beliefs we carry, the stories we find ourselves in, and the thoughts we think. Identifying with that aspect of the self that is beyond these limitations and definitions, Atman or soul, is the path to avoiding suffering. The third klesha, raga or attachment. Raga is understood not only as attachment to things that we currently possess, but also as cravings to things that we don't have. We either fear losing what we currently have or want that which we don't possess. This process takes us into the future where we either imagine situations of ruin and loss or a desire for that which we currently don't have. Our cravings are projected into the future based on our past experiences. For instance, I can be craving chocolate in the immediate future. This craving is based on a memory of having had chocolate in the past. Its taste, how it makes me feel, what sensations it brings up, and so on. In yoga philosophy, the insight is we can't really fulfill our cravings by objects, things, and people that are external to us. The greatest fulfillment can only emerge from within, and the best part is that our inner selves are completely within our control. Coming to the fourth klesha, dvesha or aversion. Dvesha or aversion is the act or impulse of rejecting or battling against that which is present right now. Aversion to discomfort, difficult emotions, and pain only pushes us to distract ourselves from the situation. This in turn causes more suffering as the situation doesn't go away. Aversion lies in our reaction to an external pain and not in the situation itself. For instance, imagine two individuals that go through a similar physical loss and pain. They both have severe accidents and lose the capacity to walk and use their legs. After the physical pain subsides, they will still have a mixture of raga, attachment to their old way of being, and dvesha, aversion to adapting and accepting their current situation. The first individual might give in to raga and dvesha and might feel helpless, depressed, and low. Unable to live out his or her dreams, one feels dejected and loses hope. The second individual rises above raga and dvesha and sees the injury as an opportunity to focus on another aspect of life. This individual becomes grateful for still being alive and is full of joy and life force or prana. Moving on to the fifth klesha, abhinivesha, fear of death. The last klesha is the fear of dying. This stems from a belief that life is finite, that we only live one life. The recognition of Atman or soul or consciousness within us will free us from the fear of death. We see life itself as infinite with no beginning or end. Our physical body and the situations we go through are just part of a longer journey that began long before this birth and will end long after our death. In India, traditionally one would be encouraged to speak about death and the fear of dying. As one approached old age, one would discuss and think about death and what comes after. Unlike in the West, where the subject of death is seen as a taboo, something that is best left unspoken. Like life, death is to be welcomed and embraced. That's all for this video. That was a brief introduction to the 5 kleshas. Each of these can be spoken for more than an hour, but it is, I think, enough for the moment. If you have any questions about the same, do write to me, do write in the comments, and do stay tuned for more videos like this. Thank you for watching. Namaste.